Tim. We're going to have your book out here next week. This is the middle of November of 2020, folks, and the book will be released during the coming week and be available. It's titled The Gospel in Colossians. It's short, to the point. It's in our Topical Line Drives series that's limited to right around 12,000 words, which usually ends up about 44 pages, and I think just slightly less in this case. So, here's my first question. We have the gospel in Colossians. What, in essence, is the gospel?
The gospel has a few parts to it that you read throughout the book of Colossians that undergirds the book. Here's the first. All things were created for Christ and by Christ. That's God's intentional plan. We see that in the great poem of 1:15-20. But then there's a second part, that people are alienated, engage in evil deeds, hostile in mind and spirit, that the universe has gone awry. But then, by the great work of salvation, Christ is reconciling all things to the Father. So the majesty, supremacy, and greatness of Christ is what Colossians emphasizes. And that greatness of Christ, fourthly, brings the power of God into people's lives to form believing communities. That's especially in chapters 3 and 4, where people are renewed in the image of God. So the gospel is God's powerful work of forming all creation for the one for whom it was originally intended. That is, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, Jesus Christ, the supreme and great one.
Fullness in the majesty of Jesus Christ change, and in fact I would say enhance, our presentation and living of the gospel.
Beware of traditions that try to latch onto the gospel like barnacles on the bottom of a ship. So apparently the Colossian situation is that some people, either in Colossae or from outside, were adding rules and perhaps mystical experiences onto the greatness of Christ. They were saying, don't taste, don't touch, don't handle. They were telling about visions which they have seen. And Paul says these things are distracting from the supremacy, the greatness, the majesty of Christ. Watch out when all sorts of other things start to surround Christianity and strangle out the supremacy of Christ, because the supremacy of Christ is enough. We are, it says in Colossians, rooted and grounded in Him. We're like kind of a walking trees is sort of the idea. And as we're rooted and grounded in Christ, we grow into the Lord, but have to beware of those traditions, which will try to latch themselves onto the gospel, distract us, and ultimately sap away our spiritual energy.